Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Scouser Tommies, and there's going to be 3 of us this week, and that doesn't include Google Assistant or Alexa or Siri, because I've unplugged them. I've had enough of their appearances the last couple of weeks. It's me, Jim Boardman, it's Reid, and it's Tony Evans, and well, we've got plenty to talk about, loads and loads of serious stuff. No, just a bit of serious stuff, I think, because we're always going to get onto Everton at some point, aren't we? But Jay, how are you? Have you recovered from last weekend? Are you all set for this weekend?
I had to think for a split second of what last weekend was, you know.
Yeah, it blanks out.
Yeah, it's in a way, the fact that we're having one game a week, it kind of, you can get over the fact that we're not playing very well, because it might ruin your day or your evening or whatever in the case of last Saturday. But then the fact that they're not playing through the week, you can kind of just drift through the week. And obviously January's a slog anyway, isn't it, as we all know. But yeah, it doesn't seem to upset you anymore because there's no game to let you down. But yeah, quite quiet week, back to work proper this week. So yeah, as they say, it's like back in the routine, and sometimes you just wish, well, can we just have Christmas back again? But then, you know, if we had Christmas back, we might get the decent results, and we can't have everything, can we? Yeah,
that's the trouble, isn't it? Well, we'll have bank holidays again soon, won't we, in May? Maybe an extra one for that thing going on with the Palace, the thing, or whatever that is. You know, the one good use to the royal family, I think, is we can get extra bank holidays out of them. Tony, yeah, it's been ages since we played a game. It's actually almost a week as we record this, but did you have a chance to have a laugh at the Carabao in midweek and stuff like that as well?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's there's some really interesting results during the week, and I thought the funniest one, of course, was Fulham beating Chelsea, and Chelsea's hot new loan sign and getting sent off, which was hysterical, you know. But it just shows that there's the top 4 is definitely not out of is not out of reach. Because teams that you'd expect to be in there, like Chelsea, like United, are not very good. And of course, Newcastle are in there. I don't think Tottenham are very good. They just need to get their act together. And you know, as bad as Wolves was, and as bad as some of the games have been, and as bad as the midfield is, because let's be honest, we can't say it's good. You know, if they score the goals, they're getting the chance. If they score the goals, they'll be all right.
God, yeah, we are creating chances, aren't we? And that's the thing, isn't it? When you fight in for the top of the table, and certainly in our case, the last few seasons we've been doing that, is you're up against someone who's like not slipping up at all. So you make a slight slip up, maybe they make a slight slip up, but there's just no room for error at all. And I don't want Liverpool to hear this now, but there is a bit of room for error when you're going for the top 4, because everyone else is messing up as well. So yeah, it's not out of reach, the top 4, but my God, we've got to start doing something about it. And that, before we came on, we were just talking that Jurgen Klopp's done his press conference, so he's actually done it in time for us. Normally he's doing it while we're recording this, but doesn't sound good, really. What was your biggest takeaway from it, Jay? I think I already know.
That's the obvious, isn't it? I'm currently in a Twitter spat with someone here as well over, you know, the lack of signings or the lines being put out. I think it's Neil Jones and then Paul Joyce has re-put it out there himself. I think it's something, with the word for word, but along the lines of, we can't make any signings, we're pretty skint. I don't think we are. I think there's, as we could delve into it, there's a lot more behind the scenes going on, and I think we all know this season that's God's plan, and we don't fall off a cliff from where we were last season. And I heard something the other day, I think it was Dave on the Scouser pod, said that last season we were 23 points ahead of Arsenal at the end of the year, and they're currently 16 ahead of us. Arsenal have improved and we've declined, but no way is there a 39-point swing between those two clubs in 6 months' time. So something is severely wrong with us. And okay, they're getting things right, but it kind of points more the finger at where we're not doing the right things. And, you know, we all wanted improvements in the centre of the field in January because it's a glaring, obvious need. And we've got one in who isn't a midfielder. And by the sounds of it, we might not be getting another one. So it doesn't bode well. And I think, you know, maybe we're gambling with Champions League football. And if you gamble with Champions League football, you've only got to look down the road at Man United and, you know, sponsorship start pulling out, the money starts going slightly astray, and then you might start panicking and bringing in players who aren't actually what you need. And the way we're operated at the moment, that's not something we can afford to do.
No, and well, I think what Klopp said, I mean, I'll just put it, what he said, I've had 6,000 press conferences at Liverpool. Maybe not quite that many. I have to tell you again the money story. Why could it be the reason we have money like crazy and we still don't buy players? You know the answer. It's not that we have so much money, we don't know what to do with it, but we think, oh, we don't need anyone. It's just not that easy. We can't sort the problems with injuries in this window. Are you buying that, Tony? Do you think there's more to it? Is it truthful? Is it straight? Is there a cover story? Is there a conspiracy theory anywhere in it?
Well, I mean, there's two interpretations of it. One, he's putting pressure on Fenway to spend. And you know what? My view with this is that if they think they're going to miss out on the top four, it affects any price they're going to get when they sell the club. Yeah. So they don't want that to happen. So if they're not putting up the money, then, you know, it's stupid business. And from my dealings with John Henry, he's not a stupid man. You know, sometimes it takes a while to penetrate his brain and for him to get the point, but he's not stupid, and he won't want to lose money. And the other thing, the other possibility is that people are asking too much for players that Liverpool are in for, and Klopp's trying to play down the desperation, which never works, to be honest. But he's very edgy. He's very unhappy at the moment, Klopp. You know, you can see he's not his happy self. Well, he wouldn't be because they're not doing as well as they might be. I think the truth is somewhere in between. I think if they find the right player, Fenway will pony up the money. Yeah,
I think that's the thing as well. When you come into selling a club, I mean, don't worry, I'm definitely not a massive businessman or anything like that. But if you spend, you know, £60 million on a player, then that player then has a value on your club's books, that player's registration. So in a way, if you're buying more assets and they're decent assets, then when you come to sell the club in that respect, you're sort of going to get that money back anyway, in a way, when you sell it, because it's part of the valuation. And as you say, you're ruining the valuation if you sort of drop down and you're playing in that Europa conference thing, whatever it's called these days. You know, if you're really dropping down somewhere like that, it just devalues the club massively because it takes us off the stage. And I suppose the reason Liverpool are going to be valuable to someone with billions of pounds is because of that image of the club and being one of the best clubs in the world, a prestigious club, a prestigious name. And it's just not the same on a Thursday night.
Yeah, you've got to be in that elite, and you know it's if you're expecting people to spend, and football clubs are vanity purchases. You know, they're not. You don't buy football clubs to invest and make money. At least not yet. Having said that, Fenway, who picked up Liverpool for 218 million, are going to sell it for upwards of 2 billion. So you know it's. But generally, in this environment, you're not going to make money in that sense. So there's an element of, you know, you need for it to be a sort of flagship business in the sense of it performing well in its own area. And when you're outside the Champions League, well, you're outside the elite. So they won't want that to happen. And if they are sitting back and letting things slide and allowing this to happen, then, you know, it's certainly Henry's not the fella I met and had a relatively sort of a relatively good relationship for quite a while. He's a very, very sharp businessman. But as I say, it takes a while to get through to him the gravity of certain situations. But I'm sure where money's involved, it doesn't take much time.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think we sort of look at him as he's not micromanaging the club, is he? It's more a case of he's going to be getting information back from what's happening on the ground. And I think I've had this thing that when Liverpool have been doing well, I've always thought one of the reasons for that is that all the way through the club, they've been trying to find the best people for the job in every single sort of part of the business. and I'm calling it a business, as well as on the sports side of things, if you like, trying to make sure you've got the best coaches at the academy and obviously the best manager you can get and all the rest of it, and all the right people as well. And one criticism, I don't know if either of you two have heard this, one criticism I've had in the past about the club is they got a lot of people in who are really good at a particular job, but were not sort of Liverpool FC minded, which may not be a bad thing, because then you're not kind of think, we've always done this way. There's no other possible way to do things. But maybe sometimes, I don't know, is there enough passion? Have you had any feelings on that, Jay? Have you heard anything along those lines? Not so much on the sporting side, but on the sort of business and so on side, the Chapel Street side of things.
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
I think Tony might be more in tune as the information, but we did go through a spell where we were hiring like neuroscientists and physicists, and they were doing a lot of off-field work and like the medical department and the food and stuff like that, where I think it was like 2018-19 we were probably touted as the forefront of European football. We were the best run club, and we were the model club, as it was put, and for that all sorts of to fall apart or fall down a little bit as we are now, and there's been high profile departures. Obviously Michael Edwards is the name on everyone's lips, and then his replacement Julian Ward has gone within 6-8 months of being officially in that post, and then is it Ian Graham and somebody else, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, has also vacated the positions in the last 6 to 12 months, and that's a concern because we haven't actually found out, well, have they fully been replaced? If not, I don't know, someone might be able to clarify that for me, but it is a bit suspicious how the people who were doing the day-to-day running of the club on the off-field side of it all seems a little bit in turmoil. And if you use the analogy of like a car, if your engine's not running properly, that's what you can't see, but the output of the car then isn't going to run as smooth on the road, and that's obviously reflecting in what we are on the pitch. Like, we're not very smooth on the pitch because under the bonnet isn't exactly working spot on either. So I don't know, but it is a cause of concern that we've got a lot of speculation about things off the field, and as fans, really, we just want to see success on the field. We obviously want to see success off the field financially and doing well and stuff like that, but what we pay our hard-earned cash for to go to the ground every week is to see Liverpool win, and that's not what we're getting this season. And as I say, it's concerning, but Tony might have a little bit more insight into the specifics and what's going on there in sort of the business side of things. Do
you think that is then, Tony? Do you think, from what you've heard, is there anything going on there that, everyone's worked somewhere where there starts to be sort of bits of low morale going around, people start leaving, rumours spread. I mean, Liverpool, we always say, is like a village, the way rumours spread, but I can imagine Chapel Street's like that. Have you got any sort of inkling that there are problems at that side of things with the club? Are there people fed up, or what's going on?
I think there's always been one of the problems, always during Fenway's ownership, is that they were in Boston and they never got they never got a level of sort of executives in Liverpool who were actually running the place in a manner that basically they never set up like City. City have got City's, whatever you think about Manchester City, City's framework is superb. They've got top class people in loads of positions, and the club runs very, very smoothly. In comparison with other football clubs, Liverpool never quite got that, and in part it's a semi-detached, sort of mindset of the ownership. Is that? I mean, I think the are clearly problems on the footballing side at the moment because so many people are leaving. And one of the things, Edwards, Mike Gordon and Klopp were a very tight unit, in terms of the recruitments. And, when obviously Edwards is gone, Mike Gordon's trying to drum up, buyers for the sale, which, I mean, we're not seeing a queue, are we? It's one of those things. And then, other people are leaving, and as perhaps the analytics isn't being treated quite as seriously as it once was. However, there's also a lot of luck goes into this. People like, the build a statue to Mike Edwards people. They forget that before Klopp arrived, Emre Can and Markovic were going to change the nature of the club. They were not only going to replace Suarez, they were going to this was the landscape of the Premier League's going to change. Not quite. And, so it's Klopp brought a football eye to a recruitment department which had a lot of, it was, to say it was hit and misses to give them the best of it, and they've had more hits than misses since Klopp arrived, and I think that tells you something. But yeah, at the moment, I mean, you've got a club up for sale, you've got a lot of people leaving, there's so much uncertainty going round, it makes people nervous, and football clubs are not good places when people are nervous and people are scared.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, it's like confidence is such a big thing in football. I mean, you see a striker that's losing his confidence, and you'll see him not score for game after game after game, and no doubt that does spread through the club. And I think something that's something else that keeps coming up though as well is like one of the reasons Liverpool need to the reason Klopp's been asked these questions is because we don't have enough players to put out on the pitch for 2 games a week that are of decent quality throughout the pitch, front and back. And part of the reason for that isn't so much about the quality in the squad, it's about the quality of the fitness, if you like, of those players. And we've spoken about it before, Jay, is it time maybe that we don't just look at investing in players and thinking about spending 60 to 100 million pound on a player, but is there more investment we can do to make sure we've got the right people? Have we got the right people, medical staff and so on? Are we falling victim to the way we play and not dealing with that correctly? Is it because we get one injury, we have to use a player too much? Is it time to change the medical staff, or is that sort of just one of these many red herrings?
Again, it just sounds like we're repeating the same thing. Well, it's all speculation, I think, what we're sort of rumouring. But the medical guy we had is now at Man United. He left in the summer and he's rocked up at United in the last few weeks. So that to me is a bit of a suspicious thing that needs questioning as to why he's gone there, and we may never find out. I'm not sure. Club medical staff are going to go releasing books in years to come, but it was something that happened in pre-season according to the speculation around, and he left his post, and then it was well touted that we were looking for a club doctor. Obviously not one man or lady runs the whole operation. We do have a huge medical team looking after the squad, and obviously the youngsters and the academy staff and stuff like that, but it is a bit weird how we're picking up a lot of injuries. A lot of injuries we get in training, which I find odd. I don't really recall. I think Jota picked his up on the pitch at the end of the Man City game, and that was probably just down to pure fatigue that we pushed him so far, and he was probably just in the red zone, as they say. But you quite often hear niggles that we've picked up in training. I mean, the latest one, I don't know if it's confirmed or not, is Darwin Núñez this week. If he could be out, it was a question mark over his fitness, and we just always seem to pick up these things. Jordan Henderson with concussion the other week, and it's always one thing after another. We would love to have a clean bill of health, but it always seems like we're down to the bare bones. And is that medical? So I'm not qualified to say enough whether it is or it isn't, but it certainly is a question that needs asking, and it is a concern if we continue to go on picking up these little niggly injuries, then we aren't going to improve in the league, because it's quite clear where we are so far this season. It's not enough. We do need a clean bill of health, and we know if we get players like, for example, Naby Keita on the pitch in the last few games for me, he's came on and he's changed it. Like, he's ignited something. He looks dangerous, and I don't know what everyone else's opinion on that because it is. I like him as a player. It's unfortunate that he just cannot stay fit and be on the pitch every week. But when he is there and he gets a little run together, he can look threatening. He offers something that we don't seem to have in any of the other midfielders. And, you know, it's annoying more than anything that him as an example, we can't rely on week in, week out. And if we could, then I would imagine we wouldn't be in the position that we are. And that just goes throughout the team. Like Bobby Firmino was another one. We don't know what's going on with him. He seems to have disappeared. He come back from the Dubai trip, and I think he played one game, and then he's disappeared again. And no one actually seems to have any clear information on what was up with him.
Well, Klopp has actually spoken about that today. He said with Bobby, it was first estimated 10 to 14 days out. Then he felt something again to prolong it. And at the moment, he's not close to team training. On Nunez, he said, we're waiting for info, not a major one, but it kept him out of training, so we'll wait for that. And, I mean, I don't want you to sort of all get too excited now, but Milner trained yesterday, and he's back in normal training today. This sort of, in a way, though, kind of goes down to luck again in some ways, maybe, Tony, because like you were saying then, you know, you sign players and, you know, you sometimes like in a queue for 5 people. Like, how many people wanted Cody Gakpo? Seems like a great signing. We don't know for sure how he's going to turn out. But the idea that, you know, there's so many players we've gone for, other clubs would have loved as well if they'd had the right money or made the right offer or, you know, had the right attraction to bring them in, like Champions League football. So, you know, luck comes into it as well. And maybe that's what's going on with us at the moment. If we'd had more luck with injuries, we'd have more time for people to get fit. They wouldn't be getting used as much, and we'd get some rhythm. I mean, the thing about Keita, to me, is however good he is, the fact he's so in and out of the squad means there's never really any time to get used to him, for his teammates to know what he can do and for him to get used to them. And, you know, that's what made us so good years and years and years ago in the 80s and stuff, isn't it? That we had that sort of rhythm and that sort of, we were like a machine. When we were winning things recently, we were like a machine. At the moment, there's bits of the machine kind of clanking away, aren't there, and falling apart.
Yeah, well, they wrote about Keita in my column this week. And what was interesting is that, you know, obviously he came after the Champions League final in Kiev, didn't he? So, you know, it was like, you know, everyone was talking about the Brexit midfield and, you know, and how poor they were. And 2 of the 3 were pretty damn good, you know, as part of a 3-man unit. But, you know, he was supposed to be the missing link. But within like a couple of weeks of arriving, I spoke to someone at the club and they said to me, he's seen his ass in training about the physicality. And I was like, oh, here we go. And, you know, and he's never, you know, he's been a really divisive character in many ways. You know, you say anything remotely negative about it, and you're racist. Yeah. You know, it's like it's one of them. And like the best thing, the biggest quality a footballer can have is availability. Yeah. Because if you're not available, it doesn't matter what your level of skill is. You know, you look at Sturridge again, you know, we should have been, you know, again, it's in the column, like, it won't be worth anyone reading the bloody thing because it would tell you everything, will it?
No, don't tell
you. But, you know, if Sturridge would have been able to get onto the pitch more often, Harry Kane would be nowhere near breaking the England goal scoring record. Because Sturridge was the best English finisher of his time, and except he wasn't because he didn't get on the pitch enough. And so Keita, like, you know, I haven't got much hope of him coming good. You know, we need him now more than ever. He certainly would improve that midfield. But on the other hand, there's another thing. Even when he did play, there was an element there where Klopp never completely trusted him. Yeah. And, you know, it does take Klopp a while to trust players. Andy Robertson's a great example. Yeah. You know, I mean, he spent his first 5 months at the club. Well, from when the season started in August until December, basically not playing. Yeah. Moreno was getting played in front of him, and you think to yourself, "Oh, this fella's going to be a dud." And then all of a sudden, it all come together, and that was fine. So it takes Klopp a while, but he's never quite reached that Andy Robertson go over the ump with Keita, you know, in part because of injury and in part because, well, you're not playing enough to be trusted, are you? So there's all that. But the other thing about, again, we've heard over the years about, and this isn't a criticism, but I don't quite understand where we are, so I'm just put my point of view on this. We've heard so much about how the analytics is able to monitor players' physicality and the performance and that, know when they need a rest, know when they don't need a rest and all that sort of stuff. Well, how does that pertain to injuries? Shouldn't that be helping us avoid injuries? And it isn't. Yeah. And, it's... there's loads of concerns. And one of the things I always feel, Rafa Benitez's favourite quote in all the world is "football is a lie." Uh-huh. And what often when clubs are successful, we sort of retrofit the history to suit the narrative of success.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, it's by accident and by sort of fake conspiring. And I think perhaps we've overblown certain elements of the way Liverpool was run during the successful periods to make them seem like acts of genius when it wasn't quite that. And it's slim margins. Now the margins are going the other way. It's like, what the hell's going on? Well, clearly there are problems, as we've already stated. When people are leaving in the numbers to leave in Liverpool, something's not right. But part of that is the margins have just gone the other way,
Yeah, and I think there's a thing at the minute. If you're in a job and you've got the chance to move somewhere else, a lot of people are going to do that anyway because the mess the country's in with the cost of living and all the rest of it. Because I mean, that's something I've spoke about to so many people, not just football people, but there's people who are happy in the job, but the money just isn't quite enough, and they're starting to worry about not necessarily like being on the breadline as such, but losing some of the sort of luxuries that make it worth a while to go to work, if you get what I mean. And it sort of makes everything not as nice a place to be, and so they're starting to look elsewhere to other jobs to see where there is money. And if other clubs are offering more money or other companies are offering more money for the same kind of work, then and maybe more thanks as well for the kind of work as well, then it's not surprising people are going to leave. There's lots of reasons behind it. I think another thing when we're talking about, there's a big link between the dodgy state of the country, the dodgy people running it, and the successions of years of dodgy governments running this country, which kind of it takes me all the way back to 1989, when the government basically tried to, definitely MPs were playing a part in covering up what happened at Hillsborough, and we spent so many years trying to get the truth out, trying to say what had really happened, that all the other things that were blamed for it, that we're trying to use as sort of scapegoats, like having people sitting down at grounds was going to be the answer. If everyone had been sitting down, there wouldn't have been a problem, all this kind of stuff. Things just got left. I mean, and one of the questions I always wondered is, should Hillsborough...
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own two-footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m, Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have ever been allowed to stage a football game again, and that's whether it should or shouldn't. The answer really is not, unless it was safe to do so. But just recently, there's been, all these years later, all the stuff we now know, all the truth that's come out. There's a story about Newcastle fans, having problems there, like stewards telling them to go and sit where you want and not really knowing where to go. And of course, it looks like that tunnel's still there as well. And I don't know. Jay, did you see that? Did you see the coverage of it? The sort of backlash from Newcastle fans?
I've seen the images and I've seen the short report, the interview that the Newcastle fan had given. I think it was on Sky Sports the other day about his ordeal with his 2 young daughters, and luckily there was, the knowledge of other fans around him to see that his daughters were panicking and managed to get them through safely. But I was only a small child, 2 years of age when Hillsborough happened, but my dad was there, and luckily he made it out alive. And you know, if you're brought up as a Liverpool fan, you're educated on Hillsborough because it's just part of, you know, the history of the club, and it's what we're taught. And you know, seeing images in this modern day and age of pretty similar sort of scenes, it's pretty harrowing that like we're having this conversation. It shouldn't be happening. So I wouldn't be adverse to shutting Hillsborough down, because if it's still in this state in what 33 years on, something like that, nearly 34 years now, since Hillsborough actually happened, then it shouldn't be operating as a football stadium, and it is a tragedy waiting to happen. And you know, I was in the situation in Paris last year, and that was, you know, very similar memories to those people who suffered at Hillsborough, and they sort of had like PTSD, and it brought a lot of memories back. There was people on our coach coming back from Paris and saying it was basically the same or worse in some situations, and I wouldn't wish that on any person. It's clearly something that needs addressing. But what is more bothering to me is Sheffield Wednesday fans and fans of other clubs seem to think it's okay. Like it's fine, and that's what's wrong. Like they just think, oh well, you know, it's our ground and we'll do what we want, and you just need to stop whinging about it. And we won't, because we all know the truth, and we will always fight for the truth, and we will always fight for justice, and we will always fight for the right that the people who lost their lives lost them unlawfully, and it should never have happened on that day. And it's something that rattles you as a Liverpool fan, and it rattles you even more when other fan bases seem to defend it. And you know, it's a fight that we'll never stop having, because I think you'll always have that small, narrow-minded mindset of other people who just think that, oh, it's just them Scousers having a whinge and a moan, as we always do, and you know, get on with it and get a job and all that business that we have to deal with. It's the same old tripe every week, and as you say, it runs from the very top of the country. If they're spouting tripe day in, day out, which they often are, then you know, it does filter down to the small-minded people who just want to absorb it and take it on board without actually realising what the facts are.
I think that's in my opinion, I think what's interesting what you've just said then, Jay, is that you were a baby basically when Hillsborough happened, but you know all about it because you've been told all about it, obviously. But I don't know if you found this, Tony, in Sheffield. I see people, younger people, and they've basically been told the lies. So you know, they've whether they've got no need, no feeling that they need to go and find out the truth, but they've kind of, to me, it felt like a lot of the city of Sheffield defended the city of Sheffield and stuck up for the police and kind of believed all that narrative. And I'm not saying everyone's like that. There's some really, really good people in Sheffield, you know, some really good people in Sheffield, but there's a kind of almost like a core of people who believe the lies and won't be told any different.
Oh yeah, it's getting worse. It's worse than it's ever been now, and you know it's and there's a whole my country or my city, my club, right or wrong point of view that people take up, and you know what? We're not exempt for that, are we?
No.
You know, let's face it. 2 words, Luis Suarez. You know, so I'm like, you know, I'm not completely slaughtering these people, but like anyone who's a Sheffield Wednesday fan who's defending a building where 97 people died. Not only that, but there have been repeated incidents over the years is insane. And when it comes to it, I mean, let's face it, we've all suffered Hillsborough denial. And, you know, I've had plenty of it from Newcastle fans. So, you know, perhaps this was an eye-opening thing. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. No. But you know, people, they learn how bad it is. A subway, a tunnel, should be nowhere near anywhere where crowds gather. Nowhere near, because it's dangerous. You know, it's like any, you know, even in the age of seats and even in the age of, you know, sort of all-ticket games, it really is dangerous to cram people into a narrow area where they can't escape. And you know what? The thing is, I have no ill will towards Sheffield Wednesday fans. Well, obviously, apart from the dickheads who are Hillsborough and Eyes. But I hope they stay in League One forever. In fact, I hope to get relegated to League Two, because that end is not fit to have away fans in mass numbers. And you know what? Maybe they should have knocked it down in 1989. But what they should have done is they should have found a way of getting rid of that tunnel. You can get round on either side to the seats. You don't need to go down the tunnel. No one should ever walk down that tunnel to the pitch ever again. And while people are still doing that, we run a risk. It's dangerous.
I think whenever I won't say I go to Sheffield very often, but if I ever pass through you, sometimes you sort of end up going past Hillsborough, and it just gives you an absolute chill just to see it and in the flesh almost what that place is and what happened there. It just seems so bizarre to have it used now by people just taking the piss out of each other at football, because that's and that is what football is. But again, it's not about it being a matter of life and death, and football's more important and all that stuff. It's far from it. What's interesting is Sheffield Wednesday put a statement out yesterday, I think, that they said that they'd had a request from the FA on Monday, the 9th of January, to submit observations about what happened. So it took the FA a couple of days maybe to ask them for observations. They finally got round to it yesterday, and they've said, whilst it's inappropriate to outline in full the details of the submission at this time, which I get, you don't want to say everything, it then has like 3 or 4 paragraphs trying to defend itself. And in my view, it could even be that it actually was a genuine error. They really had done everything they possibly thought they needed to do. But it's this sort of denial from Sheffield fans. I'm getting Sheffield Wednesday fans, and it's the idiots that you get on Twitter, that are just sort of, no other club would have had this. If it happened anywhere else, the press wouldn't have even picked it up, all this kind of stuff. Look, whatever happened there that day, if it needs looking at, it needs to find out, was it dangerous? Could it have been avoided? Was it down to you not doing what you should have done? Or was it down to the rules that we all thought would work are actually not good enough? My opinion is it's probably down to the rules that everyone thought would be good enough weren't good enough, because the people who make these decisions haven't really thought it through. It might comply with safety certificates, but it's nice they've actually got one now. But it doesn't, to me, it doesn't sort of say, I don't know how to put it. If that was you, if some accident had happened in anything you were involved in, the first thing you'd be wanting to do is make sure it didn't happen again. Now, you want people to feel happy. You don't want people to be stressed. If children are crying because they're worried, that's wrong. This is football. And again, it just gets forgotten. This is football. You go there to enjoy it. And I just don't understand. And the thing that also worries me then is the people reading this sort of little mini sort of investigation of the FA. I don't know about you, Tony, but I don't think I can trust the FA to do this properly.
No, they're absolutely two shambolic organisations, Sheffield Wednesday Football Club and the FA, and neither have taken responsibility for what happened 34 years ago. And it's unbelievable. And you know what will come down to is actually it'll come down to a failure of stewarding and a failure of policing, because it always does. And people think, oh, it's only football, and football fans, are kind of treated like, sort of semi-feral vermin. Those old stereotypes from the from the 60s and 70s still exist. And the downside of it being called the people's game is that those who would see themselves as elevated above the people look down the noses at those who go to football. So even now, when the middle classes are frequent attendees, there's still that class consciousness that is applied to football fans, which in a negative manner. So no, I don't trust it. But and one of the things that people don't understand, and I say to fans of other clubs all the time, I say to them, Hillsborough long stopped being about us. There's never going to be any resolution for us. There's never going to be any justice for us. We do have the unlawful killings verdict, and that's the best we're ever going to get. No one's ever going to take responsibility. And why we fight on is not for us. It's for the future. It's for you. It's because at the Manchester bombing, Manchester Arena bombing, 2 people died, at least 2 people, from the same systemic problems that kill people at Hillsborough. And you're like, I don't want to see anyone die from things that can easily be addressed and can easily be sorted, and they're just being avoided because people in power, people who are earning money, people who are earning honours, don't want to take responsibility. And you know what? If you want to back them up, you're on the other side from me, and I despise you. And I say that to other fans.
I think the other thing as well, that when you talk about the class situation and you bring up the Manchester Arena, the MEN, as I think it was called at the time, it's in my view, because the truth about Hillsborough was covered up so much, things that could have been done in all kinds of different situations to improve safety weren't done, because there was this sort of narrative about the drunken fans and all that other shit that came out. But then, I mean, another incident recently, the O2 Academy in Brixton, what happened there, the people dying because of the crush outside. And I wonder, to me, there's not enough sort of feeling from anyone that something needs to be done about that. There's no sort of anyone from the authorities coming along and speaking gravely about what happened. Yet, if that had been the last night of the proms, I'm sure there'd have been a different response.
It was black people, wasn't it? It was black
exactly,
people.
Yeah.
They're like that, aren't they? They do these things. No wonder. Blame the victims. They blamed us. We were easy to blame because we've been demonised by all those years of Thatcherism, and even further back, we've been demonised by the development of the city since the famine and by the Irish influence. We've been demonised. We were outsiders. We weren't like them. We were, you don't want to touch them. You don't want to speak to them. They're lesser human beings. Oh, and in Brixton, yeah. Well, you're expected of those people, don't you? Well, you know what? One day it'll turn up on your doorstep. It'll happen to your loved ones. It'll happen to people that you regard as decent, ordinary people, who you respect. And I'll tell you what, then you'll realise that you'll be on the end of the demonising. Yeah,
it's that's the thing. I think that's what it is with people. They don't think it can happen to them. I mean, when Hillsborough happened, I was still a kid, pretty much, and I think it was the first time in my life I'd realised I'd seen so many disasters growing up, and people joke about disasters. That's how it used to be, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, oh my God, that. How could I joke about all those disasters that have happened? And, you're a child I was a child when I was joking about these things, and I'm ashamed that I've joked about them. And if I could go back in time, I'd give myself a good slap around the head over it. But, it's just there's so many people just lack empathy and just don't, I'm all right. It never happened to me. Well, yeah, shit happens to everyone at some point or other. That's the sad thing that people have to face up to.
Can I just jump in a minute, Jim?
Yes, of course.
On just something that Tony said there when he said, when it happens to other people who then point the finger, it all then becomes a bit of a story. Well, look at the situation with Chelsea and, the common chance. We all know what it is, whether you want to say it or whether you don't want to say it. It's deemed, obviously, in a homophobic manner. And Liverpool were vindicated at the start of the season when we were to play Chelsea. I think it was last year, to be honest. We were called out and our name was dragged through the mud, as it always is. We're used to it. But there's been recent instances where Chelsea have played other teams. I think Nottingham Forest might have been one. And I think maybe Leeds or that. I could be wrong on that exactly. But, these reports are making national news, Sky Sports News. Clubs are being charged for not controlling the fan bases and, looking into alleged racist and homophobic chants. And, well, they're harmful to people. We understand that. And, people get upset and offended by it. But what about all the stuff that comes towards us, the mocking of the dead every single week? No matter what the team is, there's probably a small handful of clubs who come to Liverpool and Anfield and don't sing about Hillsborough. And there's a very, very small minority. But they all do, and they all think it's funny. And it's just accepted that it's like, okay, well, it's fine because, well, they're dead and what are they going to do? That's the sort of impression that I feel. And it's not okay. And, we'll always continue to call this out. But as you say, Chelsea, the royalist club in London, the King's Road and all that business and all the toffs who live down there. Now it's them. They don't like it. And now they get the friends in the media and the politicians to sort of do something about it. And it just smacks of hypocrisy, really.
Well, there's plenty of that, isn't there, in the game and in the media and in the world, sadly. I think the good thing is, though, we all do. I mean, no matter how much we get of that, I think Liverpool as a city, Liverpool FC's fan base, it's strong and it stands up for itself and it'll keep standing up for itself. It always has done, always will. It's always had to, and it probably always will have to as well, sadly, but it will always happen. And that also, though, at the same time, let's change the mood slightly now. I mean, it's good that the fact that we had such solidarity from Everton fans tells you. I know there's been a little bit of sort of going away from that recently with a few minority of them, but the fact we've had so much solidarity over Hillsborough from Everton fans tells you everything about the city as well. That, football's football, set it to one side. But, I mean, football in the city, Everton, every week I know there's something to laugh at. So, I mean, what's going on with them now? They seem to they've been taking banners to games now as well.
Bed sheets, yeah.
It's, I mean, what, these, and they all don't seem to be sure who needs sacking. They're looking for a scapegoat and they can't work out whether it's Frank, who hates Klopp, he shouted at Klopp, or whether it's somewhere higher up. How's your Everton mate at work taking
it? He's on the edge. I haven't seen him since a few days ago, and he took his poor lad to United, didn't he, last weekend? I was telling you about, and I told him it was child abuse, and he still went ahead and done it. But it is, as you say, it's who to blame. Like, Frank's tokens with them are starting to dwindle out very quickly, but it's still not Frank's fault. It's everyone else's fault but Frank, because, as you say, like, he gets them, and he shouted at Klopp. But it gives you that little bit of a smile when you think, like, no matter how bad we are, they're always worse. And we repeated it last week, but they are a bit of a mess, and it's concerning. And I think the other day when I was speaking to one of them, they were saying, this weekend's game, Southampton's a 6-pointer. We'll turn them over. They haven't won, and then all of a sudden they turn City over, and you're like, oh, actually, we've got something to think about there. And you said, like, well, what happens if your new stadium, when it's built, which, as I've said before, it does look impressive from a distance. What happens if you're opening games like Rotherham at home or Preston or something like that? How are you going to feel about that? And he's like, we don't even want to think about these things. But the reality is it's probably going to happen. So they're in a whole heap of mess. And if we think we're sort of in a bit of a situation with transfers and stuff, they're in a lot worse. They don't seem to have any money to spend, and they don't seem to have any players to sell, because the ones they've got, they've paid a lot of money for, they give a lot of wages to, and no one therefore then wants them off the books. So, we're in a bad situation, but they're in a really sticky one as well. It's
like when Robbie Fowler was, that's the only way they're going to get rid of any players. It's like when Robbie Fowler was playing for us and City were paying half his wages for a while. That was always a good laugh as well. That's how City get by. But Tony, you were talking recently though about worries that you knew about to do with Everton, that they just can't. To me, they just can't face up to it as a club. They just look at us and kind of try to blame things on Liverpool and stuff, and they sort of, I don't know, they just don't seem to ever able to take responsibility for their own situation, to do something about it. And I don't know, I think that plays into the hands of the owners, the way the fans are as well, a lot, that they sort of, they're happier to fight amongst themselves and find a scapegoat than actually try and look at it and think about what needs doing.
They waste too much energy hating us, that's for sure. It's and now they're beginning to protest and cop out behaviour. It's sort of they always look down on that. I feel for them. I know this goes against the grain for people. I feel for them. This club has been badly run for a long time since Kenwright took over. It's been. How shall I put it in a way that would be deemed acceptable by our friends in the legal business. There have been people outside the owners who have had too much influence on the club right from back in the late 90s when Kenwright got involved. And so, for example, I would say that at the moment, Mashiri obviously is the owner, but his relationship with Usmanov, who obviously an oligarch and is under sanction because of, sort of the war in Ukraine, his relationship, he relied an awful lot on the patronage of Usmanov, for example, the sponsorship in the stadium and, the various sponsorships with Everton. And when they were taken away, it's put them in a financial situation which they don't want to be in. And they've spent an awful lot of money over the past, since 2016, and certainly more money than is warranted by the position they're in. And I'm very concerned that if they do go down, then where do they go after that? I mean, it's I think the clubs, unless they can find a buyer or unless there's an injection of money from elsewhere, then they're going to be very, very vulnerable because the money's not in place yet to finish the stadium, is it? I mean, I saw it last week when I was at home. And, sort of driving down, sort of Everton Valley, and you can see, then, it'll be great. It'll be an iconic waterfront stadium when it's built, but only if it's built, and two, if it's got a high-class team in it. And at the moment, I mean, it's clearly not Lampard's fault. He's not a very good manager. Let's be honest about it. But it's not his fault. Likewise, it wasn't Rafa's fault. And you can go back, you can name all the managers who've been there since Moyes left, and really it's none of their faults. It's I mean, people come in and didn't improve things, but it's there are systemic problems in that club that won't be addressed until they get, I think, a change of ownership. And as you can see, Liverpool, one of the most successful clubs in the world, that made the Champions League final last year, that have got titles and Champions League wins on the resume in the past 5 years. There's no queue to buy them. So who's going to be buying Everton?
That's it. And I think as well, I'm like you. I mean, we were last season talking about how we felt if Everton went down, and I think we both agreed in the end it just wouldn't feel right to not have the derby at least twice a season, and also you feel sorry for your mates who are good people that are also Everton fans and stuff. It is only a rivalry. You don't want them to go down, but you do worry about what's going to happen to them. But then it kind of puts it back into perspective what we're going through. We're sitting here at the start of this show talking about money not being spent on players that, we want another 50 million for a midfielder here and another 90 million for another midfielder there or whatever. Yet, not that long ago, Liverpool nearly went into receivership. It nearly went under. I don't think it ever would have probably gone under but it was such a dangerous, knife edge situation that we were in that, where we are now, the stuff we're crying about now in a way, is so much less. It's definitely first world problems compared to what we've used to have. So it's good. It's good that we've sort of, again, back to what Jay said. It's good that we've always got Everton to kind of remind us how lucky we are. And it's even better, I suppose, now that we've not got the red side of Manchester laughing at us from down the East Lancs as well. And again, I think as well, you talk about City, sort of, we just mentioned then paying Robbie Fowler's wages. They just find money. I think someone posted today, is it the 4th anniversary of the investigation being launched into City's finances, and we still haven't heard from it. Are we ever going to hear from it? Is it being quietly glossed over? It's football's what it is, but we haven't done much today to talk about actual football, and I don't think we want to talk about the Wolves game too much. We've got them again next week, but Jay, Brighton, I'm worried. Are you?
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, mag boxes and games consoles. Visit libertyshield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Yes, in a word. They frighten me in terms of like, well, look, we've just been talking about everything, but look what they did to them. I think it was 10 days ago, something like that.
Yeah.
They tore them a new one in their own backyard. So much so that they were getting off for 54 minutes or something like that. But it just smacks of, like, to me, very much like the Brentford game. Like, there's clearly a way to play against Liverpool at the moment. We are so open, it seems, down the middle of the pitch, very slow, and it's something that plays right into Brighton's hands. They've got young, energetic, larky midfielders, runners into the box, and I wouldn't even want to say this, but if we took a draw, I wouldn't be too disappointed, and that's a damning statement of how far we sort of have crumbled this season. Yeah,
that's it. A year ago, we'd be disappointed with a draw. Now, it almost feels like that'd be a result for us. It shouldn't be, but that's how it feels. But then the other side to this was everyone assumed that Graham Potter was the reason for Brighton's success, and I'm not saying he had no part in the success, but looking at what's going on at Chelsea now and looking at how Brighton are still being good, maybe there's other people behind the scenes. And Tony, that kind of goes back to what we were saying before about, you know, it's not just like Klopp isn't the reason Liverpool, all by himself, isn't the reason Liverpool won the league again and won the Champions League again. Frank Lampard isn't the reason Everton are struggling, not all on his own. And, you know, another example there in Brighton.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you look at the clubs that are well run and clearly well run. You know, Brighton, Brentford. You know, you know, you can see what they're doing. They've got a clear vision of what they're trying to do. They know what the budgets are, and you know they keep within them, and they work within the means, and you see it. It can be done. It can be successful if you get the right people, and you know. So I think. I mean, you know, only 7 or 8 months ago. 10 months ago, people were looking at Liverpool going, what a well-run club. You know, they're in contention for all 4 trophies. So, you know, things are often not quite what they seem, and can change really fast. You know, it's but you do look at these smaller clubs who manage to punch above the weight, and you've got to give them credit. And you know, again, a lot of that is a bit of luck. You know, Brighton have shopped in the market they're in for a long while. And, you know, you looked at last year, the year before, they couldn't score any goals. Then all of a sudden, boom, it starts working for them. And they sign, you know, McAllister, who's, you know, who goes on to be a World Cup winner. And, you know, I mean, part of that's a little bit of luck, which you always get. But if you keep doing the right thing long enough, then you deserve a little bit of luck. You know, it's and you know, you look in the last sort of decades in the early part of the 2010s, what Southampton did, and you know they had. I mean, I saw that. I knew their managing director at the time, Nicola Cortese. And I saw how good he was. He very, very effective, and he had a very clear vision of what he wanted for the club. And the leadership is important. And again, I think if you're going to criticise Fenway, and lots of people, the Fenway out people and all that, criticise them for issues which really are not, you know, they can't solve. But what I would say is what Fenway have always lacked is appointing a chief executive, a leader in Liverpool who could make decisions and who has a very, very clear vision of what he or she wanted. Instead, it's kind of been, you know, I used the phrase before, semi-detached. You know, it's been semi-detached from Boston. Generally, I found when John Henry got involved, problems got sorted very, very quickly. Yeah. But there's a kind of always been a disconnect between Boston and Liverpool, which hasn't helped the club. And having a great leader for a manager covered over a lot of the problems you could trust Klopp to get on with it, and and obviously his relationship with Mike Gordon was was a real positive thing, but I mean it's clubs that have strong leadership on the grounds that generally are the most successful.
Yeah, that's it. It's having it. It's just having it throughout. It's just you can't be in Boston and manage a club in Liverpool. And direct a club in Liverpool properly. If you're that far away, if you're not gonna come and live here, which is understandable. I don't expect you to leave your home and come and live here, but I do expect you to, make sure it's in good hands while you're not able to come and sort of watch it day to day. And yeah, you're right. That's a job that they need to advertise for. But that gets us on nicely because there's a job that the club are advertising for. One that I didn't think I'd ever see. Mighty Red's mascot executive. Tony, you spotted this.
Yeah, I saw it and I thought, you know what, I'd apply for it, only I don't want to be Tony Barrett's assistant. No. It's, for those who don't know, me and Tony work together at the Times, so it's it's a mild jibe. But no, it's an executive. So not only are you Mighty Red's minder, but on occasion you're going to have to be Mighty Red. And you're going to have to, do the social media, blog as Mighty Red, and that's an executive role. I see it's an executive role. So I just we always talk about the executive strata in football, and appointing the right executives is crucial to getting your club running well. Well, Mighty Red executive, that's it. Forget the top four. We're going in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Arsenal don't know how to look after their mascot, after all that went on with Gunnosaurus. But now look at Liverpool appointing mascot executive. Actually, Tony Barrett was there the day. A few of us got invited to the club and we got told, bring the kids, that kind of thing. You'll be glad you came. It was one Sunday, I think, and we went into what was it called? The little burger joint thing that's inside the club. I forget what it's called now. The little in the Cop. So we went in there, sort of just stood around, all trying to guess what it is. And a few of us joked, oh, maybe it's a mascot or something. And Tony Barrett's face, because clearly you know what Tony's like. He'd already found out what it was. And yes, lo and behold, Mighty Red was unveiled to a very, very underwhelmed audience. And I mean, fair play to it. I mean, it's a good idea in some ways. The community side's good, but my God, does he really need an executive? Jay, have you any strong feelings on Mighty Red? Are you glad that the club's backing him like this?
Things aren't great in my job at the moment, but I don't think I'll be applying for that job. Unfortunately, I might not even have the credentials for it. I don't know how me waving hand is as I'm walking around the side of the pitch, or whether I've got the physique to pull off the Mighty Red outfit. So, as you say, it's probably one more for the community. But yeah, the fact it's labelled as an executive sort of position smacks of a bit of irony.
Yeah.
I don't know. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough. So it's a bit of an odd thing, and then given. You'll probably get all the idiots replying, well, can we not apply for advertise for the midfielder? I'm sure that's probably down on the posting somewhere in the Twitter shenanigans. You
know what? There is a parallel between this job description for Mighty Red's assistant, or whatever he is, or she, obviously, and players, because it says, when performing as the character, you'll be constantly in costume, required to move about in costume, to entertain fans whilst working in excessive heat or cold under demanding physical conditions. I mean, I wonder if this is is this actually under the radar way of getting a new midfielder? Maybe, maybe. We'll find out, won't we? I think that really we can't beat Mighty Red and having an assistant. I think we're gonna have to wrap it up there. But any thoughts from you two about the stuff that's coming up for the Reds? We've got Brighton, then we've got Wolves. Predictions: are we going to get through both of them games the way we want to? Jay first.
As I said earlier, I'd take a draw at Brighton if offered right now. Just given the situation that we're in, and they look like a very dangerous team set up to sort of punish us. Regarding the Wolves game, I'd like to see us go through, because realistically, that's probably our only chance of a genuine trophy this season. Real Madrid are probably licking their lips and probably want the tie playing next week, given the situation that we're in, like with injuries and everything else. But, we all know the Champions League's a hard one to win. It will be, a massive gloss over what is already looking like a very dark season. But I wouldn't be adverse to trying to go far in the FA Cup and, at least give us something to cheer about at the end of the season. The trip down to Wembley, as we've always said, is never one to be missed. So I don't like to predict that, but a draw and a win would be nice. If we got 2 wins, I'd be over the moon. But then that doesn't, hide from the fact of what actually is really going on. But we are where we are, and I suppose we just take what we can in these moments.
Yeah, I think feel much the same myself. Although, Tony, if we did kind of put our best team out against Wolves at home and we didn't win, so. I mean, it feels like we definitely can't guarantee we're going to be through to the next round of the Cup, can we?
Well, no, but I mean, it's one of them. It wasn't a great performance. But again, like I say, if we take our chances and we have VAR on our side, we've got a good chance. But I mean, so obviously I want them to go through in the Cup, because I think I'd love the first opportunity in May to boo the national anthem in the new King's reign. Yes. That would be, I think that would be a special moment for me.
Yeah. Drowning out all the God Save the Queen, because people still forget what to sing.
Yeah. Brighton have always felt like a bogey team for me because of the early 80s when they beat us 3 times, twice at home in 2 seasons.
Yeah,
and knocked us out to the Cup in '84, the year we went on to win 3 trophies. That prevented us doing the clean sweep. So I've always got that niggle and fear of Brighton since then. But it's one of them. We've got a very good record down at the Amex, and we have got. I mean, sometimes we forget. Like, we've got Mo Salah, and right, he hasn't been at his peak lately. I was hoping I was the world break all rested and in flying form, but we still might see that. Is there a player in the Brighton team who's as good as Trent or Salah? I mean, I would say no. And they might have a better balance and a more overall strength at the moment. But we've got impact players who can, so, yeah, I'd take a draw.
Yeah, I know what you mean. In your column, we've mentioned it. What can people, without giving anything away, people have to read it. What are you talking about on this one this week?
Talk about Kate, talk a little bit about, I mean, a lot of the subjects we've covered because of the obvious ones. Talk about what happens at Hillsborough. I talk about Brighton being a bogey team and why it is, and and sort of and that sort of stuff. It's all. I mean, we've replicated a lot of it in the sense that. Well, it's obvious. It's what interests like Liverpool fans at the moment. It's what interests us. So you can expect that. But it's as usual. I slag a few people off, and it's use some swear words and that sort of thing. So what are you going to do?
Well, what you're going to do is you're going to read it, hopefully. And I'm going to finish off now just quickly with Mo Salah, what Klopp had said today. What a journey. His dreams have come true here, but it's not over yet. He looks sharp with his speed still after all these years and games. Most important, funnily enough, is he is always available. Him and us was a perfect match. So yeah, we've got Mo Salah and we've got Trent. And, if we're all remembering that when we're playing as a team, just how good we are, if we can remember how good we are, we can win anything, I think, and we need to start by winning this weekend. For now, that's it from us. Thanks to Reid, thanks to Tony Evans, and thanks to you for listening. I'm Jim Boardman, and for now, that's it from Scouser Tommies, but we will be back soon, so see you soon.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.